President Trump is again trying to curb birthright citizenship despite a recent Supreme Court ruling that struck down his previous attempt. President Trump signed 2 executive orders today. The first order is aimed at cracking down on what the Trump administration calls birth tourism. The second expands the definitions of people ineligible for birthright citizenship. So back in June, the Supreme Court ruled President Trump's executive order seeking to limit birthright citizenship was unconstitutional. CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson joining us live now. Jessica, what makes these new executive orders different than the first one that was struck down by the Supreme Court?
So part of what makes it different is that the Trump administration is trying to target just specific categories and is also looking at the 2 exceptions that we know are present with respect to birthright citizenship, the children of foreign diplomats and the children of invading military forces, and seeking to expand those categories.
Let's go, people. Adam here. Here we go. The DOJ has filed a record 32 emergency appeals to the Supreme Court under Trump, each time seeking to override lower court rulings against administration actions. The justices are growing weary of being treated as an emergency hotline for an administration that keeps losing in lower courts. But that is only half of the story that is exploding across Washington right now. At the same time that the DOJ is storming the Supreme Court demanding emergency relief, another scandal is unfolding that reveals everything you need to know about how Trump views the constitutional powers of the presidency. He pardoned a Democratic congressman who had been charged with accepting $600,000 in bribes, apparently expecting that the congressman would switch parties as payment for the pardon. When the congressman refused, Trump went public with his fury, complaining about a lack of loyalty. The transaction was supposed to work one way. Trump would erase the criminal charges, and the congressman would join the Republican team. But the deal fell apart, and now Trump is left publicly raging about being betrayed by someone he pardoned.
We're going to begin this hour with the latest controversial pardon from President Trump. Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar and his wife will no longer face charges of bribery and fraud. Wednesday's announcement follows other recent pardons of a disgraced foreign leader, a billionaire with possible financial ties to the Trump family. Scott McFarlane is with us once again. Scott, good morning. People are saying there are a whole lot of questions here. What can you tell us?
Hey again, Gail. Henry Cuellar is not a supporter of the president. In fact, he's a Texas Democrat who holds a competitive congressional seat on the Mexican border. Trump says Cuellar was targeted by a weaponized Biden administration, a claim he's made regarding other recent pardon decisions, which has critics saying Trump is politicizing his powers.
I will thank the president personally.
Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar praised President Trump Wednesday after being pardoned from fraud and bribery charges before his trial even began.
Nothing has changed. I am a conservative Democrat. And I am very bipartisan.
Cuellar and his wife Imelda were accused of accepting thousands of dollars to advance the interests of foreign figures in Azerbaijan.
The combination of these 2 stories paints a devastating picture of an administration in crisis. The legal system is rejecting Trump's policies at every turn, forcing the DOJ to constantly plead for Supreme Court intervention. The pardon power is being used as a transactional tool to buy political loyalty, with Trump openly admitting that he expected something in return for his act of clemency. This is not how constitutional government is supposed to function. This is an administration that has lost its way, that treats the entire federal government as a personal instrument for political gain, rather than a set of institutions designed to serve the American people. Let's start with the DOJ's Supreme Court blitz, because the scale of what is happening here is genuinely unprecedented and deeply concerning for anyone who cares about the rule of law. 32 emergency appeals. That is not a number that represents normal legal practice. That is a number that represents a systemic failure of governance. When lower courts keep ruling against you, when your policies keep being struck down as illegal, when you cannot seem to follow the law no matter how many times judges explain it to you, you are supposed to change your approach. You are supposed to reconsider your policies and work within the legal framework. But the Trump administration has a different strategy. They just keep doing the same thing and running to the Supreme Court whenever a judge says no.
Following President Trump's sweeping clemency for January 6 defendants, federal judges who presided over cases are letting their discontent be heard. U.S. District Judge Beryl Howell rebuked the president's claim of injustice, writing, quote, "This court cannot let stand the revisionist myth relayed in this presidential pronouncement. That's his quote. Let's bring in CBS News digital politics reporter Melissa Quinn. Melissa, great to have you here on America Decides. What's your new reporting on how judges are handling the pardons and the executive orders from President Trump?
Well, if you remember when President Trump issued his executive order on Monday, not only did he grant clemency to these 1,500 January 6 defendants, but he also ordered the Justice Department to dismiss any pending indictments against roughly 300 of these defendants. And this is where we're really hearing from these federal judges who have been overseeing these cases for the last 4 years. Now, the judges are granting these Justice Department requests to dismiss these pending indictments. But in doing so, they're issuing these very strongly worded orders where they're basically saying we cannot recast the events of January 6th.
The latest emergency appeal involves immigration judges and their First Amendment rights. These are federal employees who hear deportation cases, who make life and death decisions about whether people get to stay in this country or get sent back to dangerous situations. And some of them have been speaking out about what they see as problems with Trump administration policies. They have been criticizing the way things are being done. They have been expressing concerns about due process. They have been raising alarms about the functioning of the system under Trump appointees. And the administration does not like that at all. They want these judges to shut up and follow orders, even if those orders are illegal or unethical. They want federal employees to be silent cogs in a machine that serves the administration's purposes, not independent professionals who raise concerns when they see problems.
Supreme Court has ruled on the legality of birthright citizenship. In a 6-3 decision, the High Court has struck down President Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship. Conservative justices Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and John Roberts joined the liberal justices in the majority opinion, with the latter of the two joining in full. Now, birthright citizenship is a legal principle that allows a person to automatically become a citizen of the United States if they're born in the country. It's based on the 14th Amendment, which reads, all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. This constitutional provision has stood for more than 150 years. The Supreme Court clearly felt like the language in the Constitution was strong enough to support the legality of birthright citizenship. President Trump signed an executive order on the second day of his term to end the practice, leading to this Supreme Court case.
So, there is a lawsuit about whether these judges have free speech rights to criticize policies they disagree with. The lower courts have ruled in ways the administration does not like. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals was preparing to issue a ruling that would have further constrained the administration's ability to silence critics within the federal workforce. And so, the DOJ ran to the Supreme Court with yet another emergency appeal. Solicitor General D. John Sauer used language that is remarkable in its frankness. He said that only this court can stop the ongoing and rapidly spreading uncertainty for countless cases. He is essentially admitting that the administration has created legal chaos through its policies, and that lower courts are responding by ruling against them constantly. The solution is not to fix the policies. The solution is to get the Supreme Court to override all those lower court rulings through emergency intervention. The connection to the broader civil service issues is critical to understanding what is really happening here. The Trump administration has been systematically attacking the civil service, firing career employees, eliminating agencies, destroying institutional capacity. Part of what they are fighting about at the Supreme Court involves the Merit Systems Protection Board, which is supposed to protect federal employees from politically motivated firings. Trump has gutted the MSPB by not maintaining a quorum of board members. Without a functioning MSPB, federal employees have no recourse when they are fired improperly. The DOJ is arguing that courts should not be able to step in when the normal administrative processes have been deliberately destroyed. They want to be able to fire people at will without any accountability mechanism. The DOJ warned that lower court rulings would wreak havoc on the civil service. But here's the thing. The administration created that havoc. They destroyed the MSPB. They fired career employees for political reasons. They eliminated oversight mechanisms. And now they are complaining that courts are trying to provide some accountability in the absence of functioning administrative processes. The havoc is their own creation, and their solution is to ask the Supreme Court to make sure no one can do anything about it. The pattern is clear and consistent. The administration creates chaos through its actions. Courts try to enforce the law and limit the chaos. The administration runs to the Supreme Court to get the courts overruled. And the chaos continues and spreads. Chief Justice John Roberts has granted a temporary pause on the Fourth Circuit ruling, giving the DOJ a brief reprieve. But this pattern cannot continue indefinitely. Even a Supreme Court with a conservative majority cannot keep bailing out an administration that is losing case after case in lower courts. At some point, the justices are going to get tired of being used as an emergency escape valve for an administration that cannot win on the merits. The sheer volume of emergency appeals suggests an administration in crisis, one that is losing legal battles at an unprecedented rate and has no strategy other than appealing to higher authority. Now let's turn to the Henry Cuellar pardon, because this story is absolutely wild and revealing in ways that should make every American sit up and pay attention. Henry Cuellar is a Democratic congressman from Texas who has represented a border district for over 20 years. He has often been one of the more conservative Democrats in Congress, particularly on immigration issues. He has been willing to work with Republicans on border security and has sometimes broken with his party on hot-button issues. In 2024, he was indicted on federal bribery charges. The indictment alleged that Cuellar and his wife accepted approximately $600,000 in bribes from two sources, the government of Azerbaijan and a Mexican bank. In exchange, Cuellar allegedly used his position in Congress to benefit those foreign interests. He was charged with bribery, money laundering, and acting as a foreign agent. These are serious federal crimes. The kind of crimes that typically end political careers and result in significant prison time. Cuellar was facing the real possibility of conviction and incarceration. And then, Trump pardoned him. A full pardon. The bribery charges gone. The money laundering charges gone. The foreign agent charges gone. Cuellar walked free with his record cleared. Why would Trump pardon a Democrat on corruption charges? Trump has spent his entire political career attacking Democrats, calling them criminals and traitors, demanding they be locked up. Why would he use his pardon power to help one of them escape accountability for alleged bribery? The answer became clear when Trump started complaining about loyalty. According to multiple reports, Trump expected Cuellar to switch parties after receiving the pardon. The pardon was not an act of mercy or a correction of injustice. It was a transaction. Trump would make the criminal charges disappear, and in exchange, Cuellar would become a Republican, giving Trump a political win and strengthening the slim Republican majority in the House. That was the deal. That was what Trump expected. But Cuellar said no. He announced he is staying a Democrat. He is running for re-election in his Texas district as a Democrat. He took the pardon and refused to pay the price Trump expected. Trump's public fury about this is absolutely incredible to witness. He posted about such a lack of loyalty from Cuellar. He is openly complaining that someone he pardoned is not being loyal enough to him. Think about what that reveals. Trump is admitting that he expected something in return for the pardon. He is acknowledging that pardons are transactional in his mind. You get a pardon and you owe me loyalty. When the loyalty does not materialize, Trump feels cheated. He feels like Cuellar took the pardon and did not pay for it. This is not how the pardon power is supposed to work. This is corruption. This is using constitutional authority for personal and political benefit. The pardon power is one of the most absolute authorities the president has. It cannot be overturned by courts. It cannot be blocked by Congress. When the president pardons someone, the pardon is final. The founders gave presidents this power so they could show mercy in appropriate cases, correct injustices, and heal the nation after conflicts. They did not give presidents this power so they could trade get-out-of-jail-free cards for political loyalty. But that is exactly how Trump is using it. He pardoned a Democrat on bribery charges, expecting that Democrat to switch parties. When it did not work out, he complained about disloyalty. The transactional corruption is right there for everyone to see. The political implications for the 2026 midterms are significant and ironic. Republicans have a very slim majority in the House. Every seat matters. Trump clearly thought he could flip Cuellar's seat by pardoning him and getting him to switch parties. Instead, Cuellar is staying a Democrat and will run for re-election with the advantage of incumbency and without the burden of pending criminal charges. Trump gave him a gift and got nothing in return. The pardon strategy backfired completely. Now Democrats are using this episode to attack Trump for corruption and abuse of power, showing voters that Trump treats pardons as political transactions rather than acts of justice. The master dealmaker got played. The transactional genius made a terrible transaction, and now he is publicly whining about it instead of keeping quiet and moving on. The connection between these two stories is what makes them so revealing about the fundamental nature of the Trump administration. The DOJ storming the Supreme Court shows an administration that cannot win on the merits, that has to keep running to the highest court in the land for emergency intervention because lower courts keep finding their actions illegal. The Cuellar pardon fiasco shows a president who treats constitutional powers as tools for personal and political transactions, who expects something in return for every act of official power, and who complains publicly when those expectations are not met. Together, these stories expose the rot at the heart of how this administration operates. There is no principle, there is no commitment to the rule of law, there is only transactional calculation. What can I get out of this? How can this benefit me politically? Who owes me loyalty, and what will happen if they do not deliver? The DOJ's emergency appeals are about the administration trying to avoid the consequences of its own illegal actions. The Cuellar pardon is about Trump trying to buy political loyalty with the pardon power. Both are symptoms of the same disease. An administration that does not believe in the rule of law, that treats the entire federal government as a tool for personal and political benefit, that has lost all sense of constitutional propriety. The numbers are damning. 32 emergency Supreme Court appeals. A pardon traded for expected party loyalty. Public rage when the loyalty does not come. This is not draining the swamp. This is making the swamp deeper and murkier than ever before. Trump promised to drain the swamp. He promised to restore law and order. He promised to be the champion of clean government. But what we are seeing is an administration that is constantly found illegal by lower courts, that uses constitutional powers as transactional tools, and that complains publicly when the transactions do not work out as expected. The Supreme Court cannot save an administration this lawless forever. The pardon power cannot be used to buy loyalty without consequences, and Trump's transactional approach to everything, including constitutional powers, is being exposed for exactly what it is: corruption, plain and simple, dressed up in tweets about loyalty and complaints about unfair courts. The DOJ keeps losing in lower courts because their policies are illegal. They keep running to the Supreme Court because they have no other strategy. They destroyed the civil service, and now they are complaining that courts are trying to protect federal employees. They pardoned a corrupt Democrat, and now they are complaining that he will not switch parties. Every problem is of their own making. Every crisis is self-inflicted. The irony of the Cuellar situation is particularly rich. Trump has spent years claiming he would drain the swamp, attacking Democrats as corrupt criminals who should be locked up, presenting himself as the champion of clean government, fighting against a corrupt establishment. And then he pardoned a Democrat accused of taking $600,000 in bribes from foreign sources. He erased those charges completely. He let an allegedly corrupt politician walk free. Why? Because he thought he could get something out of it. Because he thought he could flip a House seat. Trump does not actually care about corruption. He cares about what benefits him. When corruption benefits him, when pardoning a corrupt Democrat might give him a political win, he is happy to let the corrupt politician go free. The anti-corruption rhetoric is and always has been a fraud. The DOJ's strategy of constant emergency appeals is also revealing of a deeper dysfunction. Most administrations file a handful of emergency Supreme Court appeals over their entire term. Emergency appeals are supposed to be rare, reserved for situations where immediate Supreme Court intervention is genuinely necessary to prevent irreparable harm. But the Trump administration has turned emergency appeals into a routine tactic. Every time a lower court rules against them, they run to the Supreme Court demanding emergency help. This is not strength. This is an administration on legal life support. They cannot win on the merits, so they hope the Supreme Court will save them. They cannot follow the law, so they ask the justices to override the judges who keep enforcing it. The civil service dimension of the Supreme Court appeal is also significant because it shows how the administration's assault on the federal workforce is being challenged in the courts. The Trump administration has been systematically destroying the civil service, firing career employees, eliminating agencies, and gutting oversight mechanisms. The MSPB is supposed to protect federal employees from politically motivated firings, but Trump has not maintained a quorum of board members, making it impossible for the board to function. The DOJ is arguing that courts should not be able to step in when the administrative process has been deliberately destroyed. They want to be able to fire people at will with no accountability. The courts are pushing back, and the DOJ is running to the Supreme Court to try to stop them. The Cuellar saga also reveals the fundamental hypocrisy of Trump's approach to corruption. He says he wants to drain the swamp. He attacks Democrats as corrupt. He demands that his political opponents be locked up, but when a Democrat who could be useful to him is charged with bribery, Trump makes the charges disappear. He does not care about corruption. He cares about loyalty. He cares about what people can do for him. When Cuellar was useful, Trump pardoned him. When Cuellar refused to switch parties, Trump turned on him. The loyalty was always the point. The corruption was just a means to an end. The bottom line is that these two stories together reveal everything you need to know about how the Trump administration operates. The DOJ is storming the Supreme Court because they keep losing in lower courts. The pardon strategy is backfiring because Trump cannot buy loyalty with constitutional power. The administration keeps losing in court. The corruption keeps getting exposed. And Trump, who promised to drain the swamp and restore law and order, is presiding over the most legally chaotic and openly corrupt administration in modern American history. 32 emergency appeals. A pardon traded for expected party loyalty. Public rage when the loyalty does not come. This is not draining the swamp. This is swimming in it. The American people can see it all happening in real time. The Supreme Court cannot save an administration this lawless forever. The pardon power cannot be used to buy loyalty without consequences, and Trump's transactional approach to everything, including constitutional powers, is being exposed for exactly what it is: corruption. Plain and simple, dressed up in tweets about loyalty and complaints about unfair courts. But corruption nonetheless. The DOJ's Supreme Court blitz is unsustainable. You cannot keep running to the Supreme Court 32 times and expect the justices to keep bailing you out. At some point, even a conservative court is going to get tired of being used as an emergency escape valve for an administration that cannot stop losing in lower courts. The sheer volume of appeals suggests desperation. It suggests an administration that has no strategy other than hoping the Supreme Court will override all the judges who keep finding their actions illegal. The Cuellar pardon is even more damaging because it exposes the transactional corruption for everyone to see. Trump did not pardon Cuellar because he believed Cuellar was innocent or because he wanted to show mercy. He pardoned Cuellar because he thought he could get something out of it. He expected Cuellar to switch parties. When Cuellar did not, Trump complained about disloyalty. That is not how pardons work in a functioning democracy. That is how pardons work in a corrupt regime where the leader trades official acts for personal benefit. The corruption is not hidden or subtle. It is right there on Truth Social for everyone to see. The President of the United States admitting that he expected a quid pro quo for his exercise of constitutional pardon power. The swamp has never been swampier. The corruption has never been more blatant. And Trump is not even trying to hide it anymore. He is posting about disloyalty on social media, admitting openly that he expected something in return for his pardon. Cuellar took the pardon and said, "Thanks, but no thanks on the party switch. He is running as a Democrat. He will probably win re-election." Trump gave him everything and got nothing. The master of the deal made the worst deal. And now Trump's rage is the only thing he has to show for it. Public fury that exposes his corrupt motives for everyone to see.